They say grief comes in waves, but that day, it came in a box. After burying my mother, I returned home to clean the attic and stumbled upon a wooden chest I'd never seen before. It wasn't the chest that stopped me. It was the envelope inside. My name. In his handwriting. My father had been dead for 15 years, and still, he found a way to speak. I opened it with trembling hands, expecting closure but receiving a storm. "My little star," he wrote. I hadn't heard that name since I was 10. He told me he'd been sick, for years. Not distant by choice, but by fear. Fear of hurting us. Fear of being remembered in pain. It broke me and mended me all at once. For most of my life, I thought he gave up on us. His silence was cold. His absence, louder than any goodbye. But suddenly, I saw the truth, he hadn't left. He had loved me quietly. The letter exposed a man I didn't know, a man who fought alone so we wouldn't have to. I wanted to hate him for that, but love doesn't allow hate to stay. "I wanted to protect your joy," he wrote. Even if it meant fading from it. He wasn't being noble, he was scared. And somehow, that made it more real. I realized something profound. Parents don't always get to explain. They just hope time or letters will do what they couldn't say out loud. I walked to our old garden the next day. It was wild and overgrown, but so familiar. I remembered him kneeling in the dirt, hands calloused, planting things he knew he'd never see bloom. That's when it hit me. That's what love is. Planting things we might never see grow, and hoping they survive us. I needed answers. Why hadn't Mom told me? Why did she let me believe he didn't care? My aunt explained that Mom had been grieving, too angry, heartbroken, and betrayed by his secrecy. We were all carrying pieces of a shattered picture. No one had the full image. Until now. I found his journal beside the letter. It wasn't just entries. It was poetry. Dreams. Pain. Today I held her hand and felt time slowing down. He was talking about me. I didn't know whether to cry or smile. He was more than a father. He was a man with fears, hopes, and pages full of love he couldn't speak aloud. One entry changed everything. He wrote, "I almost walked away today. But then she smiled. My daughter saved me again." That moment rewrote my entire identity. I was never the abandoned girl. I was the anchor to a man who was drowning. I stood by his grave, letter in hand. 4 years, I hadn't visited. I didn't think there was anything left to say. But now, there was too much. I read the letter aloud, my voice breaking, healing. "I forgive you. And I love you more than I knew." Grief had turned into something else, peace. I framed it right above my writing desk. Some people hang degrees, awards, and even wedding photos. But I hung a letter. A letter that gave me back my father. Every morning, I look at it. Not for answers anymore, but for courage. To live better. To love bravely. To speak before it's too late. I wrote about it. Not for fame, but for release. I submitted the story to a small local magazine. I called it The Last Letter from My Father. I thought no one would notice. It went viral. Emails flooded in. Strangers told me my story permitted them to feel. That's when I realized, pain doesn't isolate us. It connects us. I started a blog. Letters We Leave Behind. A place where people could share words they never got to say or receive. It became more than a blog, it became a digital fireplace. A place to gather, cry, and remember. Grief is a lonely road. But stories? They turn strangers into companions. One night, I dreamed of my mother. She stood at the edge of our garden and whispered, "He wrote the truth. I just didn't know how to live with it." And then she smiled. I woke up crying, not because I missed her, but because I finally felt her love without the weight of old anger. I didn't change what happened. I changed what it meant. That's the real miracle of healing. Pain doesn't go away, it just learns to sit quietly beside joy. I stopped telling people, "My father left us." Now I say, "My father loved me, and I found out just in time." I became a grief counselor, not because I'm an expert, but because I've been there. People don't need a savior. They need someone who understands the silence between the tears. Sometimes, I read my father's letter during group sessions. No credentials can replace that kind of wisdom. Then came a twist I never expected. A woman emailed me and said she volunteered at the hospital where my father died. She found a second letter in a donated book. It was for me. "If you're reading this," it ended, "you've already become who I hoped you'd be." That sentence carried me through weeks. My father once dreamed of taking me to the sea. So, I went. Alone. I stood barefoot at the edge of the tide and whispered his name. Then, I let go. Of guilt. Of questions. Of all the what ifs. The wind took my tears and brought back silence, the good kind. I published a memoir, The Last Letter from My Father. It wasn't about being strong. It was about being honest. And people felt that. It became a lifeline for those lost in their own storms. Not because I had all the answers, but because I dared to ask the same questions they were afraid to speak. At a book event, a girl asked me, "Can I write my dad a letter even if he's gone?" I smiled. "That's when it matters most," I said. "Write it. Read it. Let it heal you." She did. And that night, she slipped it under her pillow just like I once did. Now, every year on my birthday, I write a letter. Not to the past, but to the future. For the child I hope to raise one day. A letter full of truth, flaws, and love. Because I now know, words don't die when we do. The right letter, written at the right time, can live forever. Moral of the story: silence can leave wounds, but truth, no matter how late, can still heal them. Sometimes, the letters we leave behind become the bridges our loved ones need to find their way home.